And welcome to Studio 5. We've got a great show planned for you this week. A country singer and songwriter is dipping his toe into the acting world. We've got an early look at a Western rich in themes of faith. And an independent studio is shaking things up at the box office this summer. All these stories are coming up, but first, let's begin with our countdown of the top 5 stories from the world of uplifting entertainment. Here are your first 2. At number 5.
When you're introduced as Magic Johnson NFL owner, what is that going to mean to you?
NBA legend Earvin Magic Johnson becomes the 4th black owner of an NFL team, with the Washington Commanders now in his portfolio.
It's the biggest thing I've ever done in my life. And I mean, it's a lifelong dream.
Magic tweeting, "God is so good. I still can't believe I am living an answered prayer."
I don't know why God blessed me with these opportunities, but I want to excel not only for myself and my family, but for all African Americans, making sure we can see ourselves in these seats. And I want people to know that we can do the job.
At number 4.
Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants a higher place.
Singer and songwriter Tiffany Hudson is a familiar voice and face with the Grammy Award-winning Elevation Worship Team. And now, she's got a solo project.
What's hidden here is
It's called Hidden Here, and Tiffany stopped by Studio 5 at the very start of release day.
Now, if I'm correct in what I've read, you had no plans of doing a solo project?
That's correct. Yeah, I really just never had it in my heart, never was a desire to do my own project or to write my own songs necessarily, but just felt like the Lord had invited me into this process. It was early 2022 where I felt like I started to sit at the piano and started to write songs that maybe didn't feel exactly like what we would sing on a Sunday morning at Elevation. It felt more like me. It felt more like a personal, devotional type of song that I would want to say to the Lord.
I will meet you in the shadow every day.
And that begins our countdown. We've already previewed for you the film God's Country Song. One of the stars is Coffey Anderson. He's a country music singer giving acting a try for the very first time. Perhaps you know him from many of the music competition shows and also for being on Netflix's Country Ever After.
Let's make him feel welcome. It's Noah Bryan.
All right, everybody say Noah Bryan on 3. Noah Bryan!
I got some good news. You're opening for Colt Young.
What was it about the story that drew you in?
Everything. Everything about the story. I think redemption. I think the prodigal son aspect of Noah coming back. Country music, of course. I mean, twist my arm to be in a movie about country music. And the Lord.
Do you know how big this is for us? I think we should celebrate.
There's no drinking on this tour.
You gotta stay humble. Pride always comes before the fall. I've seen it before, know what I'm talking about, all right?
We got this, man.
Who is Colt Young?
Colt Young is an accomplished country music singer. And Colt Young is successful, runs his business his own way. But he has an opportunity to reach down to Noah Bryan, give Noah a chance.
How true to life is that for you?
In a lot of ways, very true. A lot of ways, very true. I think for the brand that I have, singing country music, also being a very outspoken Christian, there's accountability, there's certain songs I want to release and I can't, and they're jamming. Evan, the beat is jamming. But it's not the content that we agree with.
But the song that did it for you
was Mr. Red, White, and Blue.
Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's a line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes.
We were giving a home away to a combat veteran, tax-free, mortgage-free with military warrior support. And when the national anthem played, there was a different look in his eye than everybody else in the room. And that look in his eye, I put my guitar on and started strumming, and I felt like the Lord gave me that song in 10 minutes. Boom. Nobody wanted to touch it. We put it out independent. It went crazy.
For these stars and stripes.
What's the musical journey been like? You talk about
started out acoustic.
Coming before you.
Started out acoustic, just playing campfire worship, helping out at my local church, singing for Jesus. At my university, which was Howard Payne University, Southern Baptist, with a D, Southern Baptist, and just started strumming and humming. They asked me to come sing at chapel. I did that. Next thing I know, there was an overweight guy sitting down. We were at sound check, and he's like, I said, hey, you singing tonight? He goes, yeah, me too. I said, okay. I said, what are you singing? He goes up on stage, sits at the piano, goes, I can only imagine. So 30 days after ever picking up the guitar, I opened up for Mercy Me at my college. I don't know. I know that my steps have been ordered, and that's all you can say. For someone to come from 11 acres in Bangs, Texas, brokenhearted from losing his mama. Daddy had to work to keep us going. Picked up a guitar and it's turned into this.
I'm BLESSED, alive and well in the land of the free. I ain't rich, but I got everything I need.
How does a black man end up singing country music?
I plugged my guitar in and stood behind a mic.
Let the good Lord handle the rest. Man, I'm blessed.
I think for me, my granddad sang in gospel quartets with the Dixie Hummingbirds.
I know the Dixie Hummingbirds very well.
Sam Cooke and the Soul Stirrers. And there were some places that he couldn't sing because of segregation. Well, I grew up listening to him sing in church, but he also watched Hee Haw. He also listened to the Opry on the radio and loved and sang with them. So I didn't see a difference. I didn't know what he had went through when he was younger performing. And I went to a county fair in Bangs, Texas, the Brown County Fair, and rodeo, and they had a band playing on a flatbed trailer. So I was like, I want to do that.
Then I let the good Lord handle the rest. Man, I'm blessed.
Playing this country guitar and singing with this gospel voice. I mean, now we're at almost 1 billion streams. I think a black man just has to pick up a guitar and stand behind the mic.
Man, I'm blessed.
And you can see more from Coffey right now on God's Country Songs, streaming right now on the PureFlix platform. Still to come.
Faith-based Western that really has in-depth story of God's unconditional love. That's what I like about this story and my character.
An exclusive and early look at a new Western. It's called Birthright Outlaw. At number 3. Sending up prayers for Grammy Award-winning singer and songwriter Tori Kelly.
She passed out at dinner after her heart began beating rapidly, saying Kelly was out for a while. Sources close to the singer say she was carried to a friend's car and rushed to Cedars-Sinai Hospital, where doctors reportedly found multiple blood clots near her vital organs.
At number 2.
We are finally hearing from Oscar and Grammy winner Jamie Foxx after his mysterious health scare.
An undisclosed medical emergency sent the actor to the hospital back in April. In an Instagram post, Foxx wrote, "Thank you a billion to everybody. Been a long road, but all the prayers, great people, and God got me through."
I went through something that I thought I would never ever go through. And I know a lot of people were waiting, or wanting to hear updates, but to be honest with you, I just didn't want you to see me like that, man.
And with that, we have only one more story to share in this week's countdown. We'll get to it in just a little bit. Now we turn to Birthright Outlaw. It's a Western rich in themes of faith. We've got an exclusive early look, thanks to its director and writer, Aaron Burns.
Marriage is a promise. You gotta know when to stand firm when it's right and bend when it's necessary, but you always stand together.
So, Birthright Outlaw. Oh, you're the director. What inspired this?
So, A Birthright It's just a fun Western word, right, when you hear the word birthright. But it's an ancient word that talks about our origins and talks about the baggage that we're born with, for good or for ill.
I wonder if I might trouble you for a hot meal and a hitch for my horse.
My husband takes great delight in my ministering to random desperados.
Your husband, he needs a bath.
As the film opens up, we see a preacher played by Lucas Black and his cute little Prairie Farm wife played by Sarah Drew and their daughter. But what you don't know is the backstory that's about to be revealed is 15 years ago, Sarah's character was the daughter of the most notorious outlaw in the West.
My name is Rose Bridges. I am a fugitive from justice.
And that's her birthright, as you will, when the film begins.
And why a Western?
Well, that's a great question. These themes of redemption and forgiveness and justice and revenge and your past and all these things, it's just such a natural medium to get to explore these in a way that doesn't feel preachy or campy or those things. So it very much, the story comes out of the characters, and you're able to get into the grit of it in a Western.
Let's talk about casting. We've got Lucas Black, who I assume was inspired by the fact that you got to work with him on Legacy Peak.
We reached out to him and he agreed to go on another adventure with us. When we told him we'd be shooting in the deserts of Arizona and the horses and gunfights and all these things. And then, of course, it's a strong fatherhood theme about a man fighting for his family, which is right where Lucas's heartbeat is. So he and his family came out and joined us on that.
I know you said it's your desire to make films that are family friendly, that you can all see. But is there a prayer for this project?
So there's as we pray about what projects to take on and what films to do next, we have 4 words that we've arrived at aspirationally. So timeless, faith, and family adventure. So the goal is that we would give a family something that everyone would enjoy watching. And if you think of the word entertain, it means to hold one's attention. So we want the film to do that, to hold your attention, but then also to leave you with a thought afterwards. So our hope is that, years after people see the film, that timeless sense of the movie they'll be drawn back to, and be drawn back to those characters and themes. And for each of us, as we look in the mirror, we see broken people looking back at us. And I know for myself, I have failures and disappointments and mistakes and things that I've done that you wish you could change. But that theme of Birthright is that you don't have to let your past define you. And through God's transformative love, you can be changed and you can acquire a new birthright.
You've done a good thing for these people, Reverend. A place like this can turn sour real quick.
You are cordially invited to the greatest show on earth.
And Birthright Outlaw begins streaming to PureFlix October 6th. We'll have more as we get closer to that date. Right now, it's time for your weekly story in pictures. Here's your Studio 5 snapshot. We take a moment to remember Anthony Dominic Benedetto, known professionally as Tony Bennett. The American jazz crooner died last week. Photos tell his rare story of being a singer, songwriter, activist, and artist, whose collectors included Oprah Winfrey and the late Sarah Vaughan. Bennett lent his voice to the civil rights movement and sang for the likes of Governor Mario Cuomo, Presidents George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton. He learned he had Alzheimer's in 2016 and shared the news with fans in 2021, taking the stage one last time with Lady Gaga at Radio City Music Hall in August of 2021. He was 96, and this look back at his life in pictures is this week's Studio 5 snapshot. Still ahead.
The fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen. It has already passed the illegal arms trade, and soon it's going to pass the drug trade.
The July surprise that becomes the summer shocker at the box office. We'll take you to the home of the independent studio that's disrupting Hollywood. Welcome back to Studio 5. An independent studio has surprised Hollywood with 2 films opening in the top 3 in just the last few months. And here's the secret formula. Angel Studios puts audiences in the driver's seat, allowing them to choose what films and TV projects get the green light.
God's children are not for sale.
Sound of Freedom is a July surprise that could be the summer shocker.
Isaac and I will go with him.
Why, Isaac?
In April, his only son scored headlines, opening at number 3 with nearly 6 million in ticket sales after being made for only $250,000.
Throw this down for a catch.
I don't have a quarrel with you, teacher.
And then there's The Chosen, the record-making crowd-funded series that Lionsgate picked up for worldwide distribution in May, after 3 successful seasons without Hollywood support. The engine behind these upsets isn't in New York or LA. It's 43 miles south of Salt Lake City, Provo, Utah. Population, about 120,000. A land of towering mountains and waterfalls, and home to Angel Studios, where brothers Jeffrey and Neil Harmon are disrupting the entertainment world, putting power in the hands of the people. But it's been an uphill climb. When we last sat here some 5 years ago, you were faced with a lawsuit. Let's go back to that time. What was it like? What do you remember?
Well, at the time, I was terrified when I first saw the lawsuit and shocked that it was Disney. But I remember distinctly getting up in front of, how many people did we have at that time? Probably, I don't know how many. It was around 50 people on the team, 40 to 50. I remember standing up and saying to people, I'm not exactly sure how this is going to turn out, but I believe that the audience, we, and Hollywood would be better off for it.
Disney sued the Harmon's VidAngel platform for copyright infringement because it gave home audiences the ability to filter out what they didn't want to see or hear in its films.
When we were in trial, the number 2 guy at Disney was there the entire week, and their half of the room was filled with suits of sophisticated lawyers and people watching. And our half of the room was a measly crowd. And then the families would come in and sit down and cheer for us, and then they'd have to leave, or children would come and
little
cheer
Orthodox Jewish families would come in and sit down and be like, "You can do it. You can do it."
And so it's like this sea of high billing hours against, you know, the margins of Hollywood society.
How and why did you survive?
We should have lost. We really should have, and but we didn't, and we can't take credit for that. It was a mixture of families like those stepping up and putting up $10 million for us to fight the battle.
And as far as I'm aware, we're the only company that's ever survived, like a startup company that's ever survived a big lawsuit like this from Disney.
So how are things different today? How big is Angel Studios? How many projects do you have? What's all happening here now?
Leaving bankruptcy, we were at somewhere in the 30 range, maybe 38 people. Today, we're at over 140. When Disney sued us, we did $8 million. Last year, we did 120.
We got a bunch of projects coming.
Let's look at the new project lineup for 2023. All right, Tempest. This is based on a sea monster. It's an animated series.
And a familiar formula is at work. A team of 100,000 Angel viewers screened hundreds of submissions, then voted to decide what Angel Studios produces and raises the money to fund. Like The Shift, starring Neil McDonough.
1,000 versions of you in 1,000 different worlds, all working for me. Where's my wife? I shifted her.
How did you know that giving the power to the audience would work?
It was intuitive. We grew up on farms in Idaho, and it was just intuitive.
In 2016, it wasn't intuitive to anybody else. It was just intuitive. We believed that if you give people ownership, Neil gives the example of owning versus renting in a home, you know. So we had this idea that we can raise money through the crowd, and because they own part of the network, they're way more conscious and want the network to work, and they're helping market us and defend us. And so we have 12,000 investors who invested in Angel Studios.
It was also intuitive just because when we were growing up, our parents would share with us films, but they were very select few that we could watch. And we have young children ourselves, and we just said, yeah, I mean, what we see being created isn't what we want to experience with our family. And so if we ask the families what they want made, we just felt like that would mirror more what we want to see made.
It's not the Hollywood model for movie making. It's the Harmon model, and it's working. Angel Studios has an impressive roster of new projects coming out. Be sure to stay tuned to Studio 5 for updates on that in the coming days and weeks. We need to take a quick break, but before we do, we finally made it to the #1 story in our countdown in uplifting entertainment this week. Here's what's finishing on top. At #1.
I'm Nan Gurley, and I play Corey Ten Boom.
And we have a Studio 5 first look at Nan's work on stage in The Hiding Place, before the hero story of Corey Ten Boom hits theaters August 3rd and August 5th.
Our time here is nearly at an end. My patience thins.
We kept no Jews. We conducted no raids.
That's so. You are a Christian, yes?
I am.
Is there not a commandment that condemns those that bear false witness?
There is.
Boom's family risked everything to hide Jewish refugees. Why do you think it's important for this to go from stage now to screen?
Because it will reach so many more people. We'll get to know this story. The current generation doesn't know a lot about Corey. And it's so important for this story to be retold and retold. Not only from the standpoint that if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. But also, we need to be encouraged. We need to know the names of the people in that cloud of witnesses.
We were watch keepers. We kept our watches. We kept watch.
Welcome back to Studio 5. As you know, music fuels this production every single week. And this week, we're taking you to Alabama to kick it old school. We've got something from the Blind Boys of Alabama. Take a listen, and you'll hear why Amazing Grace is what's playing in my ear.
How sweet the sound that saved the wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Well,
Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. Such a beautiful song. On that musical note, we are just about out of time for this week's edition of Studio 5. So let's look ahead and see what we're working to bring you come next week.
Oh, my dear Cornelia Arnolda Johanna Ten Boom. My little Corey.
We've previewed a first look at the theatrical film The Hiding Place with its star. Take me back to a year ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was it like doing this production? We're also sitting down with the director of the stage play and film.
There was such a sense of unity. I think everyone believed in the project. They believed in Pete's interpretation.
In a Studio 5 special report.
I'm sorry, Papa, but the Lord has called me to new work.
Well, then you are right to follow it. Besides, there are enough bad preachers in the world.
Please make time to join us for that story and so much more come next week. As for this week, though, we've got time for just one more thing. We're going to give that to Coffey Anderson, the country music singer who stars in God's Country Song. He's got today's final word.
Has it been easy?
Yeah, no. Yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you can sing, it's always easy.
Mm-hmm. What's the hard part?
Balance. Because I love working. I love working. I got to slow down. My wife said, babe, come breathe. So we got to go on a boat. Like I got to go on cruises where there's no internets. I can't take a guitar and I have to force myself to be normal.
Coffey, that's a great final word for this edition of Studio 5 and this week's look at uplifting entertainment. Until next time, make time to uplift someone around you. And then please, come on back and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching.